Hi everyone, we've been getting a lot of emails recently about B12. I'm John Cawley from Plant Based Life, and I wanted to talk about B12, okay, because it's a nutrient. Well, actually it's a bacteria, but it's an important nutrient that we get from that bacteria that humans do need. But let's get down to the nitty-gritty of it. The common consensus is you can't get B12 without eating animal products, okay? Now, this to a certain degree is true, but you have to delve a little bit deeper as to why that is, okay? Because it hasn't always been this way. Now, B12 is a type of bacteria that forms that basically before the agricultural revolution, before we started doing all the things we've done to the soil and additives, preservatives and everything else, herbicides, pesticides on vegetables and fruits, you used to be able to get a certain amount of B12 fresh from your vegetables. You didn't have to scrub them clean because, there would have been risks of things like cholera and things like that, but generally, up until about 80 years ago, you would get a reasonable amount of B12 from your plant foods, but that's not the case anymore. So the only other place where B12 is reliably sourced for humans is from animal products, because animals form it in their gut, in the digestive tract, which then comes into their bodies, and then when you digest animal products from animals, obviously there's a certain amount of B12 in it. But it's not as simple as that. I used to work as a personal trainer in a gym, fit and fast, right, as a trainer gyms, and one of the personal trainers, they used to eat meat every meal, all the time, and he ended up getting like brain fog, tiredness, exhausted all the time, had no idea what was going on, he had no energy, and he went for a blood test and his B12 had depleted to such a level that it was really bad. It was like an emergency situation. He had to go and get several injections on a regular basis just to get B12 to a point where he had enough in his body. Now B12 in itself is such an extremely important nutrient, but we store high levels of it, and we store it for up to 5 years. So even if you go plant-based, 100% whole food plant-based, and you've been eating a lot of products and you've been absorbing the nutrients well, then you will have a certain amount of B12 in your system for a very long time. Now, in regards to that personal trainer that I knew, it was very clear that even though he might have been eating animal products, because these animal products are coming from factory farms and they're heavily processed, they've got hormones pumped into them, everything else, they're hard to digest, and most people aren't absorbing these nutrients from that food anyway. Some people say get your protein from meat. Well, look, if you're not digesting the nutrients from the food, get an easily digestible food, which are plants. They got fibres, they got prebiotics, which is fibre in there, and it's more easy for your body to digest those digestive enzymes that they create and get the nutrients from those sources. Some people will struggle because if your microbiome is compromised to such a degree that you're not absorbing nutrients, then you're not going to absorb it from any food, for a period of time until you address the underlying reason or get your gut flora back to a healthy state. And that's a whole other topic, and there's different ways to do that. Juice feasting is very good for resetting the microbiome, but you may need certain probiotics, but I've spoken about probiotics before, in that I don't believe they're a magic bullet, because there's a lot of different strains of bacteria, healthy bacteria we need, and these probiotics, they only have a few strains, and everybody's unique. So what might help one person might not necessarily help another, so each person has to be addressed on a case-by-case basis. But in regards to B12, as being plant-based, you do really need to supplement. There is B12 in things like spirulina, but it's not a bioactive version of B12, in that your body doesn't utilise it the same as other forms of B12. There has been recent studies and research done that says watercress and a few other sea vegetables have high volumes of B12 that are good for humans, but that's still early in the research process. It hasn't been completely validated by science yet, but they reckon they're on the verge of that, and that could be a massive groundbreaker for people who eat 100% whole food plant-based. But this is the thing, the percentage of people who are B12 deficient is much higher in meat eaters than the percentage is in people who are vegan plant-based. So, you know, like, it's the absorption of the nutrient that's more of an issue rather than how you eat, right? So, and the absorption of most of the issues, because at the end of the day, you know, we aren't what we eat, we're what we absorb, right? So if you're eating the best diet in the world but you're not absorbing the nutrients from it, it's not going to be doing you a lot of good. So with B12, you may find that not just people on 100% whole food, plant-based, vegan diet, whatever, need to supplement, but people who aren't eating that way probably need to supplement as well in some cases, you know. But my own B12, I got it, you know, tested recently, and it's off the chart. You know, my doctor has said you don't need to take a supplement for a long time because, you know, it's just way up there. It's over 900 or something. It's really high, right? So, you know, and you know, you can get the B12 soluble ones. Methacillin, if I can say the word right, it's a long word, I've said it wrong, okay, but the one that dissolves under your tongue is the best one. I have tried like the sprays before, there's different ones, but that's what B12 is. It's a bacteria. Obviously it's got a nutrient in there, like it does form a vitamin B12, but it comes from bacteria, okay, and that's its essence. But you know, it's important for brain health, neurological function. You know, if you become deficient in B12, it can have serious long-term health effects for you, especially in children. So you know, if you're bringing your children up 100% whole food plant-based, then you need to make sure that they are supplementing B12, or you can get B12 fortified foods as well, but you need to look into what ones they are, make sure they're a good source of nutrients and reliable, because they do add other things in there as well. You know, the best thing is to supplement, you know, and you know, you might not need to supplement every single day, it could be every 2 or 3 days. You know, get your B12 levels checked. If they're not low, you shouldn't have to do it every day, you know. So anyway, that's what I want to talk about, B12. It's not just people on a plant-based diet, vegan diet, who ended up B12 deficient. It's happening to a broad spectrum of the population in the world, you know, so it's quite a common thing. And yeah, I wanted to have a chat about that, because the common misperception is, oh yeah, you go vegan, plant-based, you're going to be B12 deficient, that's the only way you'll end up B12 deficient. Well, no, that's not actually the case. And you know, there are different ways to get it, and watch this space, because as I mentioned, there are a couple of potential plant-based sources that are currently waiting for FDA approval in the States and scientific validation, like watercress and a few other things, sea vegetables. And if that does come about, then it will be a game changer. Okay, so anyway, remember, peace, movement and plants.